Miren esto. En el Swing State, Pensilvania, Donald Trump está liderando frente a Kamala Harris en este Swing State que probablemente tiene la llave para la Casa Blanca. Donald Trump acaba de obtener un 51% frente a Kamala Harris con un 49%. Esto lo ha publicado la encuestadora de apuesta Polling Market, donde según las personas, los votantes indican que Donald Trump ganará este estado bastante disputado, un territorio de batalla con 51%. Cientos de estudiantes partidarios de Trump en el evento de Turning Point USA. Sería una pena que esto no se compartiera. Resulta que los jóvenes están con Donald Trump. Miren este video. Incluso la CNN se vio obligada a decir al pueblo estadounidense lo malas que son las encuestas para Kamala Harris. Las encuestas nunca han sido tan malas para un demócrata que enfrenta a Trump, incluso está perdiendo minorías. Los estadounidenses ven la verdad. 4 años bajo el gobierno de Kamala arruinarían el país por completo. Miren esto.
She is the worst polling Democrat against Donald Trump in history on national polls. No one is performing worse among blacks, among Hispanics, the worst performing Democrat in modern history among those demographics, worst performing polling-wise among Jews. She is losing key factions of the Democratic base. Muslim voters, she's at under 50%, she's at 52% in the latest CAIR poll among black Muslims. She is not doing well.
Las encuestas muestran que la mayoría de los votantes todavía creen que Donald Trump es mejor para mejorar la economía. ¿A qué se debe esto, Kamala Harris? Bueno, esto es lo que sé en términos de hecho. Donald Trump nos dejó en la peor economía desde la Gran Depresión. Si nos fijamos, por ejemplo, en las cifras de empleo, la periodista le dijo, fue durante la pandemia y el empleo era muy alto porque cerramos el gobierno y el país. Kamala, incluso antes de la pandemia, según las estimaciones de la mayoría de la gente, había perdido empleos en el sector manufacturero de al menos 200,000. Perdió plantas de fabricación. Pregúntele a los trabajadores del sector automotriz.
Still think polling shows that most likely voters still think Donald Trump is better to handle the economy.
La periodista le dice, la mayoría de los votantes piensan que Donald Trump es mucho mejor para la economía.
Why do you think that is?
¿Por qué piensas que eso es así?
Well, here's what I know in terms
Mira, esto es lo que yo sé
of the facts.
en términos de hechos.
Donald Trump left us with the worst economy since the Great Depression when you look at, for example, the employment numbers.
Donald Trump nos dejó con la peor depresión, con las peores tasas de desempleo.
It was during COVID, and employment
Y la periodista le dijo, pero eso fue durante el COVID.
was so high because we shut
Recuerda que eso fue durante el COVID.
down the government, we shut down the country.
Even before the pandemic,
Kamala Harris dice, pero eso fue incluso antes de la pandemia.
he lost manufacturing jobs.
Él perdió trabajos manufactureros,
By most people's estimates, at least 200,000.
mayormente 200,000 empleos manufactureros.
He lost manufacturing plants after
Él perdió planes manufactureros
the auto workers.
para los trabajadores automotrices.
Polling shows that
Es mentira. La CNN le hizo una verificación de hecho. Última hora. La CNN está haciendo cortocircuito porque se ha quedado sin formas de cubrir la campaña de Kamala. Está por detrás en casi todas las encuestas en sectores clave de su base de votantes. Esto es lo que sucede cuando ocultas a los candidatos cualquier cobertura mediática. Escuchen esto.
Just say the spate of polls
Quiero decirte, basado en las encuestas
that came out yesterday. Quinnipiac, our CNN
que llegó el día de ayer de Quinnipiac, de que todos los polling de la CNN,
polling, the Gallup poll indicators right now,
el de Gallup Indicator dice en este momento
the nervous campaign this morning,
de que el nerviosismo de la campaña de esta mañana en Kamala Harris,
they need to be
ellos no están donde están los votantes jóvenes,
voters of color, working class voters.
con la clase trabajadora.
They're not achieving the margins that they
Ellos no están logrando cumplir con el margen
need
que ellos necesitan,
that Joe Biden was getting in
que Joe Biden obtuvo en el año 2020.
2020, and Trump's base is
Y en la base de Trump,
immovable. And right now,
ahora mismo,
his administration
y en su administración,
and him personally
y de él personalmente,
are more popular
es más popular
than they have ever been. I just say,
de lo que ha hecho actualmente. Es decir, la CNN dice que todos los votantes jóvenes están mejor con Donald Trump.
I think he's going to continue to stay very focused on reaching out to voters, not taking a single person for granted, and talking to them about the issues that they care about most, that impact their everyday lives the most. This is such a unique situation that we all find ourselves in, where we have two people running for president who actually have a record. So it's not just about, are these empty campaign promises? Voters will actually be able to compare the record of President Trump through his first term in the White House and the last 4 years under Vice President Harris and Joe Biden. And there are very clear contrasts between them on almost every single major issue that Americans are concerned about, whether we're talking about the economy and the cost of living, something that was drastically lower for most Americans under President Trump than what they've experienced over the last 4 years. We look at border security, we look at crime, we look at domestic policy and foreign policy. In each of these areas, President Trump will continue to share with voters his record of success and remind them about how overall the quality of life for the American people was much better under him and why he looks forward to coming back into office to improve their quality of life once again.
You helped prep for the first debate. Do you think a second debate where, I heard from some advisors and allies who thought he did not do a good enough job drawing that contrast the first time. Do you think a second debate where maybe he did that more would be helpful to him when we look at these numbers?
Yeah, Caitlin, I think the numbers that you just showed, people's opinions on the debate versus how they're actually going to vote, that the race is still very close, kind of just illustrates, frankly, how these debates have become nothing more than political theater that political pundits like to focus on and talk about a lot. And a lot of the mainstream media likes to talk about the debates. But when it comes down to voters, what they really care about most are hearing from these candidates about their issues and about their record. And so I've had personal experience with this when I ran for president in 2020. It was a frustrating situation where, you've got 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes to talk about very serious issues that people are impacted by every day. So President Trump's going to continue to stay focused. He is working hard. He is traveling and going and seeing voters exactly where they are.
You talked about a disciplined campaign and having that. When Trump is in North Carolina on Saturday, a must-win state, do you share the concerns that others have about Mark Robinson and the new reporting that came out today about the candidate and the comments that he's made, given Trump has emphatically endorsed him? Do you think he should disavow him?
Based on what I've seen in the news today, those are questions for Mark Robinson. President Trump is running for president, not Mark Robinson. So what I know is that he is going to continue to stay very focused on his mission and not be distracted from his effort to try to save our country from the disaster that would occur if Kamala Harris is elected as our president and commander-in-chief. And so that's what's driving him. That's what he cares most about. And that's what he's going to continue to stay focused on doing.
Yeah, I just think we've heard concerns about whether it hurts turnout or how Republicans in North Carolina feel about that, of course, with Mark Robinson at the top of the ticket, of course, underneath Donald Trump as he's running in that state. But I want to ask you about another issue in this election, because you've spoken very candidly and really personally about a struggle that you've had with IVF, which is something that I think a lot of women can relate to. I know a lot of women can relate to because we've had many of them on this show. I wonder if you have concerns that the Trump-Vance ticket alienates other women who may have gone through that when we're talking about past comments on childless cat ladies, or when Governor Sarah Sanders of Arkansas is saying, her kids humble her, but Harris doesn't have anyone to humble her.
I think those things are some of the many distractions away from actually sharing with voters what President Trump's position is on IVF. I spoke to him about this He didn't know I was going to ask him a question. He didn't know what I was going through, but we did a town hall in La Crosse, Wisconsin, where I shared with him the struggles that my husband and I went through in trying to start our own family, and how we went through multiple rounds of IVF as part of that process. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for us, but it does help so many families. And President Trump shared with me what he has been consistent in all along, is how much he supports people's efforts who are going through these struggles, how much he supports IVF, even going farther than I think anyone else has it, as far as I know, in politics, in making sure that we have access. As you know, it's extremely expensive. Even for service members in the military, TRICARE doesn't cover IVF. So for him to take that action and say he wants to make sure that it's accessible for everyone, even if you don't have money, this is the truth about President Trump's position on this, as well as a whole host of other issues that Vice President Kamala Harris and many in the mainstream media continue to lie about and foment fear about, as though he is not supportive of families and women who are going through this very tough period.